So as we've already seen, one of the key drivers of output growth is the growth of the stock of productive capital. We have already seen that if the flow of investment expenditures increases, then all else equal, the capital stock will increase by more. Well, we want to be a little bit more precise here. It turns out that a useful number, one useful number to look at, is the flow of investment as a ratio to the previous period's capital stock. To see why this is an interesting way to look at things, let's revisit the equation that explains capital stock dynamics. So once again, we have capital today here, and we noticed here that the capital stock today is equal to yesterday's capital stock plus the flow of investment on productive capital minus the depreciation. And I'm going to remind you here that we have been writing that flow of depreciation as a constant ratio of previous period's capital stock. So now it turns out that we can get the growth of this capital stock from the previous equation. Now you may remember that the growth of any variable is simply today over yesterday minus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide through here by k t minus 1 on the left-hand side, and we're going to do the same thing over here. K t minus 1, and then k t minus 1. And then we're going to subtract 1, we're going to subtract 1, we're going to subtract 1 here, okay? Now this is already getting a little bit messy, even though the operation that I've done here is really quite simple. But I want to remind you once again that the growth rate of the capital stock is like any other variable. It's going to be capital today over capital yesterday minus 1. And here's the messy algebra, but what we get here is actually very quite simple, that the growth rate of the capital stock is identically equal to gross investment scaled by the previous period's capital stock minus the depreciation ratio. Now, if this first term is greater than the second term, it means that the country is investing more than the wear and tear on the capital stock. Net investment is positive. In this case, capital stock growth is positive. If the reverse is true, if the depreciation ratio is greater than the volume of investment, that means that the capital stock will decline and the growth of the capital stock is negative. You can see that this is a very easy way to compute the ratio of investment to the capital stock, both gross and net. Again, we are doing this for country X, but you'll be doing this for Diagnostica.